sort of the other way round, but I found out the girl I was dating was an escort when she texted me instead of the client. True story. Welcome to Reddit Town Hall. Subscribe for daily videos. Escort girls of Reddit, have you ever been caught by the clients? So, how did that go? Not a significant other. Worse. So I'd been chatting to a potential for a month or so. He had great feedback and wanted me for a 1-hour midnight out call to his house. My friend was having a house party nearby, so I figured I could go to the party, nip out, then go back afterwards. I'm not usually keen on house calls, and much prefer hotels, but he had great feedback and the comments said he was young. I arrive to a dark house, roll my eyes that it's probably just a time waster, and text to say, I'm there. He opens the door and yep, nice young guy, little bit awkward but no red flags. He greets me with a whisper and takes me into the kitchen. I see a woman's handbag on the side and assume we're being quiet because of roommates. Then, a voice from above. The sort of shrieking harpy more suited to screaming at bus drivers or emanating from Jeremy Kyle's stage. Is there a fucking light on downstairs? What are you doing? Get the fuck to bed. It's his mother. This young man has invited a prostitute over while his mother is home. He takes me upstairs. All the lights are off and I slip and fall against a door which opens. The light illuminates a woman's bedroom, frilly bed covers, and his mother in bed who thank fuck cannot tell that it's not her darling son at the doorway. What the fuck are you playing at? She screeches, and I shut the door and he ushers me into his room. I'm not sure what the fuck I'm playing at either, to be honest. I'd really quite like to just run off screaming into the night, but I've bothered shaving and would also quite like some money, thank you. We chat in hushed voices. He wants to do a role play and it's all very cringy, etc etc etc, and he also wants to come on my glasses then lick it off. Fine, whatever, just don't get it in my hair. Of course I cannot relax at all and have to be completely silent throughout because I am terrified she will come in the room and catch us. He jizzes on my glasses and of course he gets sighty in my eye. Afterwards I put my clothes on and get ready to depart. He switches off the bedroom light and opens the door. His mother wakes up again. I throw myself into the corner of the room and open his wardrobe door, but it's one of those ones that has drawers at the bottom, so I can't even hide in there, so instead I just curl up in a ball behind his bed and pray to the hooker god while this hag berates him for at least 10 minutes. I genuinely consider just opening the window and throwing myself out. Because TBH, a broken ankle would be better than having some guy's mum catch me fucking her darling son. I'm also half blind because of the fucking cum in my eye, and being hunched over like Quasimodo is agony. It was genuinely like the bit in Jurassic Park where the kids are hiding in the kitchen from the raptors. That is how terrified I was. She finally retreats back into her room and I creep down the stairs and out the door and run for the hills. Cherry on top of the cake is him texting to ask when he can see me again, but maybe this time come over for 2 AM. Got a call on my phone from an unknown number. I was at my laptop, so I typed the number into Google and hit enter. This was years ago before Google started futzing phone hash searches, and when it didn't load immediately, I went ahead and answered it. Turned out to be a tech from work who needed help accessing one of my systems. I walked him through it, then turned back to my laptop. The top hit on Google for his phone hash was a Craigslist ad for gay erotic massage. And it wasn't a wrong number. It had a couple months of ad history, and even though there were no face pics, his unusually hairy arms and a small tattoo were easy to identify. I kept that story to myself for a few years, only relating it after I left the company. I told the story at a bar with some old co-workers, not knowing that this guy's wife was friends with one of them. Anyway, my bad. 2 wives of clients knew about me because their husbands flat out told them, under the sad misapprehension that once they were divorced, we'd be free to have an unpaid relationship. The first time, I was flattered, conflicted, and saddened. The second time, I was pissed off. You threw your happy home life away because you just /hope/ some college girl was going to ride off into the sunset with you? Now I only do 2-hour maximum sessions, because I found the clients who book overnights or full-day sessions are the most likely to lose their grasp on the reality of the situation. Somehow, sleeping next to someone is more intimate than fucking them, and it makes these men confused. Ex-phone dominatrix. On a call with a dude and someone picks up the other line. It is his elderly and disabled mother, and she needs his help to get out of bed. I tell my caller to go take care of his mom, and we can talk more later. His mom thinks I'm his girlfriend and is so thrilled at the thought that her son has an actual flesh and blood girlfriend that she tells him to finish talking to me. She can wait. I hung up because I didn't get paid enough to deal with that. It was super sad. Because his mom was so delighted that he had a girlfriend. I never heard from him again. Another caller hated his wife and wanted to be feminized while talking about what a bitch his wife was and how disgusted she would be at his sissy desires. Once he got caught talking on the phone to me while literally hiding in the closet. Heard his wife say, "What are you doing in there?" My caller yelled back that he was organizing the winter coats while hurriedly zipping up his pants and hanging up on me. Same caller once tried to send me $500 in gift cards, but the credit card company called him to make sure it wasn't a fraudulent charge, and his wife answered. He managed to talk his way out of that one, too. At this strip club I worked at, one of the dancers had a daddy that came in legit almost every day. He actually was good looking and charming. His wife saw his car in the lot and pulled in and tore past the bouncers and ran into the VIP area. They were back there. It came to seconds of them getting caught. She didn't get her tip that day, so he tripled it the next time out of guilt. I worked as a dominatrix years ago, and during those years I had acquired some regular clients. This particular client worked in another province and lived in another country, but all the same was a very good client. He told me that he was separated from his wife. However, when he went back to his place in the other country, she found my dom number, called me. She was asking me who I was and how many times I saw him and etc. It went okay besides her yelling and him pleading not to say anything. I don't even remember what happened after that, but he still remained my client after the whole ordeal. Edit: I do not engage in oral sex or intercourse with my clients. Furthermore, I remain clothed at all times. So I was the girlfriend that caught my fiancé soliciting an escort. I found the texts and the link to the Craigslist ad. His reasoning was we had been having problems and he was never attracted to me, we just got along well. I left after that. When I was pro-doming, I had a great client, one of my favorites. He was this older guy, worked in construction, who liked to be dressed up like a pretty girl and humiliated. This is an incredibly common fetish and easy money. For his 60th birthday, he decided he wanted to try getting pegged. That wasn't something I'd do for just anyone, but we had good rapport and the idea delighted me, so I went ahead and made him my bitch for the evening. He loved it. We had a great talk afterwards about how liberated it made him feel. How, as he got older, he wanted to try new things, and how he wished his wife could understand and be adventurous with him. This is not an unusual conversation. What is unusual is that the guy apparently told his wife. I got a nasty email telling me to stay the hell away from her man. I never responded and never heard from him again. I hope they made it. I used to practically run an escort agency here in the UK. Started off as a driver, then covering the phones, did interviews, the photography and maintaining the website. Had 2 occasions of girls getting caught by spouses, but one sticks out more than the other. Had a regular client who would book a girl for 3 hours a few times a month when his sir was on night shift. Not sure why she came back, but she pulled up outside about 1 AM with another hour left of the appointment. As she was walking to do the door, I realized who she must have been and got out my car to loiter for when the inevitable hit the fan. We had a policy that drivers would not leave the girls for safety, not really had an issue, but helps the girls feel safe. Anyway, so walks inside. I hear a load of shouting and make my way towards the front door. Girl busts through door wearing nothing but lingerie and a strap-on. We rush to the car and start driving the 30 mile or so back home when she realizes she forgot her bag. We's only made it about 10 mile. Guess who had to go back for it? I turned up, police there. I knock on the door and have to explain myself to the police. They hand over her bag and clothes and take my details should they need a statement. Let me take girl home and that was it. Client never booked again and no idea what happened to them. Police never got in contact with either of us. Can only assume they were called out by neighbors for the arguing. Third party story incoming. I knew someone who began going to Escorts. My friend was his GF and she noticed he had missing hours in his schedule. Apparently he'd lie about being with friends or where he'd been. I thought she was being insane and clingy, but she finally snapped when a group photo of a work event that didn't have him in it popped up on FB. She asks around, he wasn't at that after work event despite saying he was. So being a sane individual, she hid her phone in his car. She tracks it from her house once he's done with work and is likely up to no good. She sees her phone as showing at some expensive apartment building where the car is parked. She goes there, smashes his window, retrieves her phone, then calls him with it. Not sure about much after that, but apparently he had white powder all over his face. Needless to say, they aren't together anymore. Edit, in her story she said something like he had white powder all over his face. When she retold it, I can't attest to the type of powder or how all over his face it was. It may have just been nostril crust. This happened to a good friend of mine. Wife had taken their teenage daughter hiking for the entire day and he thought he'd get have some company over. Apparently the daughter got sick and they came back much earlier than expected. She walked in on her husband being led around on a dog leash wearing their daughter's panties. Went as well as could be expected. They got divorced last year. Daughter went to my school, but left town after all that went down. Edit, I am a teacher and the daughter attended my school. Sorry for the confusion. I've been stripping for years. Only once, of the hundreds of times I've given out my number, has a wife called me. She was initially angry as fuck. Her husband had been sent to rehab for alcohol and drugs, he wasn't working, she was the breadwinner, and he had spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on partying. His phone was full of girls' numbers, hookers, strippers, random girls he was fucking. She was going to call everyone in his phone book. My name begins with a yo mama, so I'd how far. She got down the list. She asked me why I was stripping and I told her about college and whatnot. She wasn't angry with me at all, but very angry with him. She promised to come visit me sometime. Crazy AF. She asked me how much he gave me and it wasn't much, just a $100 bill for a $20 lap dance. His friends were giving me money too, so I figured I should keep in touch with them. I spent the money on a couple of school books the next day, which she was okay with. Smartphones get even smarter every year, so this stuff is easier to hide than ever, but people who constantly lie can't hide it every single time. Edit, people gotta be weird about stuff. Ex-front desk at high-end hotel here. One of my classics, older couple, early 60, walks in fighting. They ask to be checked into their room. We do everything, bring them up to the room, and about 30 minutes later the guy comes back down and says fuck it, give me another room, I don't want to sleep with that B. And while you are at it, find me an escort. We explain to him prostitution is illegal, so we can't refer one to him, yet if he looks on the last page of this newspaper he might find what he is looking for. We create a second room for him and off he goes to his new room. Shift change. My front desk agent goes home and gets replaced by an intern for the night. Girl walks in, clearly an escort. Sorry ladies, after 2 full years of night shifts, we can see most of you coming a mile away. To those who are actually nice to the US and don't give us a I'm a rich guest attitude, thumbs up. We appreciate this. It might save you down the road. But the intern didn't click it. Was an escort. When she asked for Mr. Smith's room, the intern found 2 rooms in the system and decided to just give one. His mistake, FD never gives out ROM numbers. 15 minutes later, I'm sitting in the back office, hear the bell of the elevator and hear a woman screaming, "Where is that fucking asshole? He's going to hear about this." My brain immediately clicked, and when I walked out I found the wife, holding/dragging the escort by the hand, demanding the room number of her husband. Yup, the intern sent her to the wrong room. When Mrs. Smith answered the door, the escort mentioned something in the lines of "Our Mr. Smith didn't specify it was for more than one person." Mrs. Smith immediately clicked. We checked Mr. Smith into the neighboring hotel that same night. He wasn't too happy. I had a very close friend that was an escort for a while. She met a man and they hit it off. He would show her pictures of his wife and children. Eventually the man has the brilliant idea to stage a meeting at a bar with my friend and his wife. The plan was for my friend to seduce the wife. They would have a three-way and all the guy's dreams would come true. It fucking worked. Not only did it work, my friend became a mistress to them both long-term and ended up nannying their children. You can't make this shit up. Edit. Okay, I guess I could make this shit up, but I'm not. Also, for the guy asking about the guy's income, I don't know. But I do know he paid for her to get braces and he paid for a few semesters at the state university. Last I heard he got her a pretty sweet car, too. I would be lying if I never considered this as a career path for myself. Obligatory second edit to say that my highest rated comment is about my loose tie into the world of prostitution. Not exactly. I lost a pair of clients, a couple, because in the days after the call we all flirted and sexted on the phone, her boyfriend, myself and my boyfriend. One day I get a message from her boyfriend's phone, and assuming she was there too, I started chatting with him. Nothing too racy at all. She walked in, found him texting me and lost it. I never saw them again. It really sucked. They were super fun. She was the one with the money, she was a high-powered businesswoman, and he was kind of her kept man. Like a same-age cabana boy. The first time I saw them, they kept me for 4 hours at 380/hour. It was wild. I still have pics on an old phone somewhere of her fucking herself with a bottle of Jack. Before anyone asks, no. She was super hot too, toned but curvy, tanned, short, blonde hair, freckles. I basically paid attention to her only. That's my rule for couples, make sure the woman is treated like a princess. Unless she emphatically says she wants me to fuck her partner, I keep it to short blowjobs for him. If she does want me to fuck her partner, and I'm sure she's serious and not just saying it to make him happy, I try to get him to finish with her. I also always multitask. While he's fucking me, I'm eating her out/fingering her/using a toy on her. Couples calls are the shit. I had a friend who was discovered, but only a few months after his death. To make a long story short, we knew each other from school and he went on to be a bigwig lawyer for a company out west. Married a beautiful woman and had 2 healthy kids. About 6 years ago, he went blind one day. He just lost his sight out of nowhere. They went to the doctor and discovered he had eaten meat tainted with mad cow disease. He quickly declined in health and passed away. Friends and family were just shocked, very sad. His wife kind of put all his stuff away and waited a whole year before she could process going through it all. This was when the iPhone was still new and her son asked if he could have his dad's since he had passed away. She was reluctant at first, but she pulled it out of storage and charged it. The phone was full of pictures, texts, and emails from a high-end escort company. There were even recent emails asking him where he was or why they haven't heard from him. This discovery sent her down a dark path and his family had a whole other issue to swallow. Last I heard she had spent all the insurance money she got from his death and got Boltons and other plastic surgery. Throwaway account. I was the client. Backstory, married young, 20, from extremely conservative background. I was an extremely selfish sex addict. I visited escorts/strip clubs/illegal brothels pretty consistently for the first 8 years of my marriage. So had no idea, I lived a pretty extreme double life. Relevant part of the story, I became emotionally attached to the last escort I met. We had mutual interests, even had some mutual acquaintances. I considered leaving my so to be with her. I hated myself. I felt I deserved to be with a drug-addicted prostitute. I couldn't handle the weight of my addiction. I didn't want to hurt myself anymore. I came clean. So was devastated. Right or wrong, she wanted to know everything, every detail I could ever remember. Went through my phone and found the number of the last one. So texted her to corroborate my story. So was still in disbelief, and came to realize that she was in a bad way in her drug addiction. My so is a saint and offered to help the escort in any way possible, and they had sporadic contact over the course of the next few months. My so was never mad that the other girl, actually had a lot of sympathy for her. The other girl eventually got herself the help she needed, and as far as I know is out of the business and is clean. Our marriage deteriorated, we separated. Which was the final push for me to get the help I needed. After a lot of bumps, and a lot of therapy, my so graciously allowed me back into their life. Has been a struggle, obvious trust issues, anger, hurt, but we've made it through. The wounds I created have left scars that will probably always be there, and I have to deal with that. I have to do everything I can to make it right because my so is worth it. She doesn't hold it over my head anymore, but I still struggle with the guilt at times. We just had our 15th anniversary. Update 1, wow, thank you internet stranger for the gold. Update 2, not a dagger. No so involved in this one as he didn't have one, but it does give a different view on escorts etc. One of my work colleagues got married and we all got invited to the reception. Some of his friends from outside work were chatting and one mentioned a guy they knew and if he'd be bringing his girlfriend. They all had a laugh at this, which us work guys thought was odd. Unless she was a blow-up doll. He did turn up, had to be one of the most unattractive men I have ever seen, but his girlfriend was this stunning brunette. Hot wasn't the word. Once a month he used to meet up with this escort, same one every month, for a couple of years now. They'd gotten to know each other well and he'd asked her to be his date for the night and she agreed. I spent a bit of time talking to her and she said he was a really sweet and genuine bloke who knew his looks would always be judged, and when he'd asked her to come she gladly accepted, but as a friend and not an escort. I mentioned that I was surprised he hadn't asked her to marry him. She said he had a few times, but she was earning good money as an escort and didn't want to be sleeping with her clients while in a relationship with anyone. So if you had finished with being an escort, would you marry him then? In a heartbeat. He's everything I'd want in a husband, she said. This was 20 years ago, so they may have tied the knot since then. I've been indirectly caught. My client told his wife and she sent me a polite email asking to meet. I see upper-end clients, so I was not concerned about a white trash wonder episode from her in public. They were married 40 years, drifted apart, no sex, just good friends, and good roommates. Divorce was definitely never an option for them. She was more curious about things than anything else. She wanted to try being with a woman and had felt repressed her whole life because of it. I am a safe bet and I decided that interaction would be on the house. I am someone who loves women as well, and these two were a good-looking couple. I prefer older in general. This has possibly been my weirdest interaction to date, but her meeting me somehow sparked their marriage. They book me about once a month together. Edit, I have been made aware of the HBO series You, Me, and Her. I do plan on watching at some point. A few commenters asked that I do an AMA, so I made a link, https://www.reddit.com/r/comment/_am_ref_ask_me_share and ref_source equals link. Not a girl, but about a year ago one of the guys I was seeing paid extra to film a meeting with his phone. Apparently he had never told his wife he was into guys, and he had definitely not told her he was banging one. About a week after our meet I got a text from his number saying it was his wife and to never contact him again. Never did learn if they worked it out or not, but I'm guessing it didn't go well. NSFW. I used to post ads on Craigslist looking for dick. Usually I'd post with titles like, hot mouth looking for down low married men. The title helps with how they feel they identify. Anyways, I get this message of a dude who says he is willing to be generous if I can make him come using only my mouth. After about 5 hours of texting back and forth, I agree to meet him at a motel. He was about 32 years old, married with twins. How do I know this? Because when I arrived to the motel, the wife and only the wife was there waiting for me. I knocked on the door in the sequence I was told. Door opens and there she is. The look on her face said it all. I don't think she realized I was a guy until I was then and there. She gave me this whole spiel about being a home wrecker and that I should be ashamed. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. I did offer to give her some moral since I was already there. It didn't happen, but she did consider it. Edit, a friend with weed is a friend indeed, but a friend with gold is the best I'm told. Leprechaun, thanks for the gold. Well, I was 16, and stupid on drugs, so it didn't occur to me what I was doing was bad. But the police caught us, and while my dad came to pick me up from the hotel, I passed by the so and his kids yelling at him while he's in handcuffs. Somewhat, sort of, kind of related story. I used to work the night shift in a gas station in the rough area of town, Vancouver, BC, East Hastings. Had this regular, quite distinctive fellow come in one night with a lady of the night. He was buying her all sorts of goodies, and she was kind of rolling her eyes but going along with it because free food, right? Didn't think much of it. That kind of evening worker wasn't uncommon for our place. About a week later, I see him during the day, walking down the street in another part of town. He's with someone who appears to be his wife. He sees and recognizes me, and gets this look of terror in his eyes. Of course I didn't say anything, but it looked like he thought that I might. Not me, but a friend had been having an affair with a married guy for 9-ish months. He said he was leaving his wife, but always came up with an excuse not to do it. Then one day, my friend was staying at his house when the wife showed up early from a business trip. She walked in and pulled a gun, aiming at her husband. This broke out into a huge fight/scramble where I guess the guy tried to tackle her. He failed to pull her down but managed to knock the gun out of her hands. So my friend ran and picked it up and turned to see them screaming and trying to tear each other apart. When the woman saw she had the gun, she turned and begged my friend to shoot her husband, saying he was a cheating bastard, etc. My friend just stood there, bare-assed, holding it. She said she was tempted, but very quickly chose to walk out, grabbing her clothes on the way. She threw the gun in a dumpster outside their place and drove off, never seeing either of them again. Hi. Escort here. I have definitely gotten a few calls/emails from SOs. Some very angry, some eerily calm. Once, a lady was very relieved that I was a pro, and it wasn't an emotional affair. Nice. Tried to get the usernames of all escort girls of Reddit. Former waitress at a strip club. A regular customer was sitting near our fireplace with a dancer on his lap. He's caressing her legs when all of a sudden I see an older lady run in and beeline straight for them. The stripper manages to jump off him, but the lady surprises the man and starts beating the shit out of him. She's cursing and screaming at him, "You motherfucker, so this is where you've been?" Bouncers run over and a huge fight ensues. This lady manages to grab his keys and proceeds to run toward the exit and tells him good luck getting home. He runs after her and maybe 15 minutes later walks back in with the look of defeat. Nothing a good titty dance couldn't fix. I worked as a masseuse for a bit. I was never caught per se, but I had a good client who came in a few times and he even paid to hang out outside of the establishment. We were friendly and all of our relations were purely business related, which he was fine with, but one day I got an angry text from a girlfriend/wife/etc. threatening to kick my ass. I noped right on out and blocked his number. Never heard from him again. I posted on Reddit before about how I wasted my 20s with the wrong guy. Well, the big tipping point for me was when he went on a business trip and completely fell out of touch with me. Ignored all calls and texts, didn't tell me where he was staying, etc. This was way out of the norm and suspicious. I went into our phone account kind of just to confirm he was still alive, landed safely, etc. Well, he was alive, and his phone was definitely working. He had exchanged hundreds of texts at all hours with one number that I hadn't seen before. So I Google the strange number and it takes me right to the page of a Craigslist escort. My heart broke into pieces and I felt physically sick. This shattered everything I ever thought about him and about us. I was in such shock. Especially finding that the guy who never was in the mood to have sex with me was out there very actively looking for it and happy to pay. He of course denied that he had the courage to actually meet up with her, and do anything, yeah, whatever. I never called the girl's number though, not her fault, all his. Bit of an opposite situation happened to me. I met this super nice pretty girl at a bar. She was ridiculously good at sex, second best I've ever had. But when I asked her where she worked, she answered it kinda strangely. She said she works in $1 at a certain area in my city in a restaurant. Which restaurant? She didn't want to say. I told my friends about this, and one suggested she might be an escort. He's quite a sex addict, so if he can't get laid for over a couple weeks by a bar girl, he'd go to an escort. Well, sure enough, he booked with a very pricey girl who looked like the girl I was dating. Agencies don't show the girls' faces, and it was her. Apparently she was having sex for money to pay her through university. She's now a high school teacher. My uncle is a gay escort. He had been doing it regularly for about 5 years, finding clients by posting online ads until he got busted in a prostitution sting. Since then, he went to massage school and now works as a massage therapist, although he still has sex for money every now and then with more established clients. He's had a few instances of wives calling and or emailing him, asking if he's sleeping with their husband. He never responds or says he doesn't know their husband, if he happens to answer the phone. I guess that is his best option for business. I couldn't tell you any names off the top of my head, but some of his clients have included married, conservative state representatives. Recently, he has been playing the third party to a rich guy and his girlfriend, and meeting with the guy for one-on-ones, unbeknownst to the girlfriend. Apparently, the girlfriend has a friend of my uncle on Facebook. My uncle goes by a fake name as an escort, saw his profile and that he identifies as gay, and lost her shit. I try not to judge him for what he does because he's my uncle and I love him, but the married guy thing really bothers me as a straight, married female. I know society has pushed some of these guys into the closet, but it is so messed up to me that many of them still marry women to hide their sexuality and sleep with men behind their wife's back. Edit, proper massage gender pronoun. Met with an escort, felt so bad I told my GF. Happened to one of my close friends but in an ironic twist. So she caught her fiancé doing the dirty deed with an escort in their own room. Here's the ironic twist. The escort is my friend's best friend and my close friend is also an escort who decided to retire a little while before their marriage. Not an escort but 10+ years in the industry, and what happens is most of the time the guy lies and the woman calls and says something to the effect, "Stay away from my man, slut." She obviously doesn't know it's a pre-arranged monetary agreement, which she would probably be even more mad. Most guys don't get caught, they have a separate phone which they leave at the office, maybe the battery in the trunk to the phone, or the rest of the phone at the office. I'll never for the life of me understand why it's the escort/mistress that gets blamed and not the cheating partner. Not an escort, but I did offer private massages and aromatherapy on Backpage for a while in my last year of university. Since I self-taught MRT and did a lot of testing on my own with friends. Anyway, one client gave me a very generous offer, even a sleepover at her place should I get too tired to drive back home after. It was a 45 to 1 hour drive to her place. I waged the cost and benefits of that trip versus the gas money/time spent for it. Having made up my mind, I prepped my stuff and left. Now I don't do erotic massages or anything that includes happy ending, but ever so often, someone would ask for a release. Being a guy myself, I was surprised at the amount of straight males with families asking me to help them get off, WTF, why? And also the number of super fit girls, more built than myself, who wanted me to do some very intimate / kinky stuff with them. This one client, however, was an older lady with incredible hospitality and an amazing body for her age. She was in her early 50s and her house is something I dreamed of living in. I was offered wine, tea, indoor clothes / sandals. For some reason, the indoor stuff made me like her immediately, and asked if I needed a shower before starting. Said we could clean each other in the shower. I politely declined and said I took one, so she took one while I prepare. Massage went beautifully. She fell asleep for a good half an hour as I worked her lower back and mid-back region. I flipped her over after to work on her front body, and that's when she popped the questions about other services. I said it really depends, especially with what I brought that day. I did not prep for anything extra. She asked if I was feeling tired. I said no. She asked if I wanna stay for the night. I said I did not want to intrude on the family. Replied she was divorced. Then she pretty much asked me if I want to be a sugar baby, with a monthly allowance. She would pay for my tuition, even find a place for me to stay close by if I didn't want to live together, offered to lease / buy me a car too if I wanted, etc. Being the broke student that I am, I swallowed hard with all of that benefits and declined again. I gave her a full body rub down with a warm towel after some lower body massages and left. Never heard from her since then, stopped being a masseur too. I felt really sad at that time as I left. Don't know why that had such an impact on me comparing to everything else. I hope she is still okay and is doing well. I left a note that day on her sitting posture since I thought that could be a major reason why her lower and mid back was so tight, also daily stretching exercises, and she should be careful if she does any intense sports, like dragon boating / rowing. TLDR, was an independent masseur, had a client who wanted me to be her sugar baby with benefits. Never massage after that again. Felt really sad, hope the lady is still doing well. Good posture is key for back's health, remember to stretch. My best friend is a sugar baby and a dominatrix. She had an issue with a client whose live-in girlfriend found my friend's number in his phone. She called yelling, screaming, cursing, etc. My friend laughed it off, saying first of all I don't know who you are, second why are you mad at me, and third I'm not the only gal. Sad note, a few months later the dude started bragging about how he was molesting the girlfriend's 14-year-old daughter in Disneyland. Friend called the crazy GF and she did nothing. Friend called the police and CPS, but it turned into them interviewing her about her life choices versus a kid being abused. Level 8 mage here. Was paid to escort some orc lady through a flooded settlement. She hurt her ankle, but it turned out she used to be a shaman. Woo. Third party, but boy do I have one. XGF has a Russian friend that used to run a brass house. They had a regular client came in once a month on payday, and booked ahead. Always had the same girl. Apparently he was a dick but paid double to get a little rough. Anyway, guy calls for his once a month, and she pencils him in. Later that day she gets a call from one of her new girls. She's sick again and can't make it. She said she doesn't like the girl, and she rarely turns in and she's rude to clients when there. She waits a while and makes to ring the girl back to say she comes in, or she doesn't come in ever again. As she starts putting the number in, it comes up with the exact same number the regular phone from earlier. She phones the girl back, is nice and understanding with her, but tells her she must be in on the Friday, or don't come back. Friday comes, the regular arrives and she puts the guy in the room. Then she tells the new girl, her client is in the room. The new girl walks in, and closes the door. 30 seconds later, the guy runs out the room barefoot, holding his jeans up with his hands, and the girl is right behind him, beating him with a jockey's whip. She said the guy never called back, and the girl angrily picked up her clothes half-hour later, and was never seen again. The story of the girl running down the street in out but thigh-high latex boots, beating the guy with a jockey's whip as he ran barefoot trying to hold his jeans up, remains one of the best stories I ever heard. In her own words, never since I was little girl, I piss myself, but I piss with laughing. Edit, fuck me people, it's a story I heard from someone 5 years ago that I typed out on mobile. I didn't think I needed to hire a proofreader and a literary agent. This will probably be buried. So I used to escort around university times, not a proper serious thing, just helped out financially wise, so I wasn't really fixed on price, therefore most of my clients ranged from yacht dealers to factory workers. I used to see an investment banker at least 3 times a month, and it started to become more romantic for him. He told me about his kids, life goals and generally info you would share with your wife. He even asked for advice regarding his daughter's rebellious tendencies and if I could somehow mentor her. I just thought, oh how sweet. One day he asks if I would like to come over to his place as his wife is out of the city. I say sure, whatever. We get there and the place is beautiful and there's pictures of his family everywhere. White carpet, games room etc. While he's giving me a tour around, we get to his daughter's room and he starts kissing and fondling me. Takes off my knickers and throws them onto his daughter's Beanie Babies collection. Gross, I know. We head to his bedroom. We obviously start having sex and we hear the front door open. It's his wife. Okay, so I'm black. My client and his wife are very middle-class white people. We were basically in doggy position and he was ramming me into the pillow, causing my brown foundation to smudge all over, I'm guessing, her pillowcase and sheets. She walks in and just flips off her heels and takes off her earrings while, I kind you not, were frozen in that position. She didn't seem upset or shocked, she just asked me politely to leave. I left with no knickers or ride home. Fourth party story here. A good friend of mine is a marriage and family therapist, and worked from a clinic down the street from my house. She calls me up one day and asks me to quickly come over to her office because one of her clients is going ballistic, and the building security isn't answering. Turns out that she had been treating this couple for a while, and the wife flat out said during the session that she had caught him cheating and she wanted my friend to fix him. Apparently it was the first time that the husband had heard of this, so he denied it, and the wife pulled out her phone, on which she had signed into his email, and started reading off the emails he'd had with several transsexuals on Craigslist. They got into a fight right then and there, and for some reason both of them got angry at my friend when she tried to prevent them from breaking the furniture in her office. She ran out of there, went to the bathroom, and called me to help her break them up without involving the police. They were gone by the time I got there, and I don't know if she ever ended up billing them for the 2 vases they'd thrown at each other. I caught my man sending messages to ads on Craigslist while he was away on a business trip. Called and confronted him. He cried over it and felt bad. We are still together and I chose to forgive him. But the trust is very much lacking. I'm a dancer at a small little strip club with lots of regular customers. One day it was particularly slow, so I decided to text my favorite customer and ask if he'd come see me that night. Not out of the ordinary. About 20 minutes later he calls me, strange, but I pick up anyway. On the phone I hear him muffled in the background and a not too happy female yelling, "Hello? Who the fuck is this? He didn't come in that night. Lol." I know of a girl who was secretly an escort posing as a massage therapist. She was murdered a couple weeks ago. Beat with a pipe and stuffed in a box. Her escort life came to light for everyone to know via social media. No one deserves to die that way, but it certainly lost her a bunch of sympathy. Her boyfriend claimed to not know about it. I doubt that's true considering she texted every address to him that she was going to. Using a throwaway because I don't do this anymore and I don't think everyone in my circle would be as understanding of the things I did. So several years ago I started classes at the university, and to get some extra change I started working on a webcam site. I ended up doing it about 4 nights a week and made a good amount of money, mostly from a smaller group of regulars who would pay me for private sessions with them. This one guy always tipped me the equivalent of between 50 and 75 euros a session, which lasted about 2 hours each and happened about every week or sometimes every 2 weeks. At one point he made an honestly very sweet suggestion that, if I wanted and was interested, he would love to see me in real life. We live in the same country, which is not particularly big, and fool around. No strings attached and so on, and he offered me 1k, so I mulled it over, and after asking my best friend, who knew what I did, for help, they said they'd stick around as security and for me to have fun. So I tell my client this and he agrees. My friend would be waiting in his living room while me and my client would go play in the bedroom. My friend is fucking amazing, as you can probably tell. Long story short, we arrive at the place. It's a nice house, not particularly large, with the bedroom right above the entrance. My friend and I are greeted by the guy who was super nice, even paid everything up front to my friend, and got her and me a drink and told my friend how to operate his TV set. I did not see any pictures in the house, but I did get the idea that he was not living the single life. I didn't give it much thought though. So me and him go upstairs and start having sex. He honestly was very good and we both get into it more and more, so we don't hear that apparently the front door of the house has opened. My client started to get an inkling something was terribly wrong when he heard shouting downstairs. He peeks down through the window, and at that point, I also clearly hear my friend trying her best to explain their presence to a very distraught lady. My client's wife, of course. So my client puts his clothes on ASAP and rushes downstairs, with me slowly following, and loudly proclaims that me and my friend are the new neighbors, and that I was suddenly not feeling well and he took me upstairs to go lie down. I see my friend trying her absolute best to keep it together at that point, as she puts on her most worried expression and asks if I am okay. I give a silent nod because, to be honest, the situation was so ridiculous I was trying not to laugh, and my friend rushes me out the door as fast as she can. I am absolutely positive his wife did not buy our story, but we didn't stick around for that as she was yelling at her husband. This was also the last I have seen of him. He never visited my room on the campsite anymore either, that I know of. For a while I did feel pretty guilty towards his wife, though, and part of me still does to some extent. At the same time, I don't think I really did anything wrong, but that was the only time I met a client or had sex for money. The moment itself was funny, but also not the most pleasant experience towards the end, and I do wonder what happened to him and his life, as stupid as that might sound. I am never going to seek him out to find out though, for obvious reasons. Mine is also a third-party account, but I think it's worth it. A few years ago a friend of mine discovered contacts for escorts in her husband's phone. She confronted him, but he said he didn't know how the numbers got there. This was not the first transgression of this kind on his part, so she filed for divorce, but since she was the primary breadwinner as a successful professional, and even though he had spent many thousands of her earnings on prostitutes, she learned that she would be required to pay alimony in addition to splitting their marital assets. Undaunted, she called the numbers she'd found in his phone one by one and eventually reached a woman who was willing to talk to her. My friend assured the prostitute she had no ill intentions toward her and offered to pay her standard hourly rate just for info via phone. The woman said she had a better offer, $2,000 and a few days later, my friend had a video in her possession of her husband getting blissfully dominated by the escort and a friend, both packing enormous strap-ons. She had her attorney send the video to him, with an offer to settle their divorce outside of court according to her specifications. She got the house, both of their cars, and all other assets. He got the dogs. Not me, but one of my female friends was dating a guy who was really wealthy. He lived in a really nice place, drove a really nice car, and always had cash on him. He was really mysterious about his work. We all figured he was trafficking drugs. Then I saw a picture of his torso on Backpage, as a high-class gay male escort. He had a tattoo that was unmistakable. No lie. She confronted him. He said he didn't have sex and just went on dates with wealthy closeted gay men and cuddled. She stayed with him for a while, knowing that wasn't the case, but secretly wanting that to be true. He started buying her nicer gifts too, which helped. But after a while, she couldn't do it anymore and left. I still can't believe I found his pic while searching on Backpage. So is escort a fancy word for prostitute? I have an opposite story. Was with my ex for 2 years, got a random message one day while on my break at work from a guy twice my age telling me he had been paying for her rent in exchange for sex. She was in Hawaii for a yoga retreat at the time I got the message, so I confronted her over the phone. She denied all allegations. After hearing her deny the story, I decided to follow up with the guy to understand why he would lie about such a thing. He insisted that his story was true, so I asked the guy to show me some proof. He sends me screenshots of sexual text messages, snippets of his bank statements which included paying for her Hawaii trip and her rent, then to top it off he sends me a link to her sugardaddy.com profile. As soon as I saw her sugar daddy profile I lost it. I couldn't contain my anger and had to be sent home from work. Needless to say, I ended the relationship that day, but in the long term I have to live with the herpes that she left me with. So I used to be a cam girl and I had a regular who would pay me to tell him stories like this, about sex for pay, getting caught, etc., while he jerked off fully clothed laying face down. Not super funny and not an escort story, but still. Okay, so I used to drive escorts in northern Alberta on and off for 4 years. These girls made serious cash, so much that most of you wouldn't believe it if I said. Anyways, we are in a city called Edson. Get a call to a trailer near town. Now, most of the people staying in trailers are staying in this high-end fifth wheels and they work in the oil patch. So, we get there and she goes in. 10 minutes later a pickup truck pulls in behind me. It's a woman. Thought nothing of it at first because some of these guys call multiple girls when it's late and just take whoever comes first. Well, it wasn't another escort. It was his fiancée. She just stood there with the door open staring at the girl and telling her to get out. Guy had been in the processing of paying. He had already paid $150 for her to come to his place but was about to pay $7,000 on the credit card machine for 1 hour. She was understandably pissed off. The dude called again like 2 hours later saying she was leaving soon and that he wanted her to come back over. Said he would call once she left. Never did get that call. So this past March my best friend, IRL and industry, was contacted by this Tonya woman who found emails and texts from her husband to my bestie. The texts he sent her mostly consisted of him asking to meet, saying some vulgar BS, and her telling him to stop contacting her. The emails had one reply of her asking when he wanted to meet. She had tried to set up a meet to get the cops to help her file a restraining order, but it failed. My friend was super polite, Tonya was mean. Screenshots for sadness. Screenshots removed, because I accidentally someone's personal info when I was editing. Edit, we were unable to file restraining orders due to being unable to track their information to an address or employer. The names are pretty common. I have been doing this for 15 years under the radar. I have never been caught. However, a girl I did shows with was. When we came over to her sugar daddy's house after he had been busted, every single bottle in his wine cellar, which was roughly 1,500, had been broken along with all the cigars in his humidor. She also pulled down every picture on the wall and destroyed them. There was glass everywhere. Tore apart his pool table, threw the balls through all of the mirrors. Apparently she was taking him to divorce court, and was planning on getting everything. Especially since she didn't want that whore to get any of it. I believe the bust factor was in the form of an STD. Way late on this one, but I can contribute to it, kind of. I caught my father cheating on my mother with escorts when I was 17, and immediately told her about it. She talked it through with him, and ended up telling me later that he had been cheating on her on and off their entire marriage. He and I have a weird relationship now, because he's always trying to give me money, but honestly their marriage seems stronger now than it was before. So, this isn't quite what you asked for, but it's a situation that's been playing out for a few days now in my life and I kinda really wanna just get it out there. My best friend and I have kind of a weird relationship. Not really so's, but kinda might as well be. We're very close, have spent basically the last almost 2 years spending any free time with each other. I moved in with her about a month ago, moved away from my hometown and she told me she'd handle all the money stuff while I just enjoy being away from my old place for a while. Long story, depression, anxiety issues out the ass. Anyway, we're both bi girls who occasionally go out and find a guy to fool around with when we're after that kinda thing. So when she opened up the console of her car and I saw some condoms, I didn't think a whole lot of it. On Friday we were just giving each other grief about something and I brought up the condoms asking who they were for, joking that she always knows when I go out and find a guy to mess around with. She got kinda weird about it, and I'm an idiot who thought she was just embarrassed to tell me who it was, so I pushed. That was when she told me she'd been escorting as long as we'd known each other. It took a while for it to hit me. We were drinking that night and we had a good talk about the kinds of things I was feeling about it. I used to do some cam stuff for money and had thought about getting into the escort thing before, and she knew that. So ultimately she told me she knew some guys that'd be interested in a third if I wanted to join. Had to tell her that now was probably not the time to decide that. Went to bed that night, in a generally good mood and glad we were open about it. I cried all day Saturday. She'd lied to me as long as I'd known her and it killed me. She does do some more traditional be your own boss type of work, and so I never questioned when she would tell me she was going out to work. I couldn't help thinking about which times she'd lied to my face about it. She has a lot of anxiety problems as well, so it was hard to reconcile that she'd been escorting in secret and was just 100% okay with it all. I'm worried it might be affecting her emotionally on some level. I felt guilty that she did this so she could spend money on me. I'm jealous that all these strangers knew this incredibly personal thing about her that I didn't know until a few days ago. This one is kinda dumb, I know. The thought of all these repeat customers whose names I'd gathered just from her talking about people she'd worked for made my stomach turn. I threw up a fair amount. We fooled around off and on all day yesterday. I've been clingy, possessive, and absurdly affectionate. I love her and I'm not just going to leave now. After this weekend I feel like we cleared up a bit of unknown tension that will ultimately be a good thing. She told me it's not something she wants to do forever, but she's going to do it unless I ask her not to, or until she figures out a more stable traditional field to work in. She's still asleep today. I've been awake for a few hours just laying on the couch and thinking. I just used the last of my money to help with rent since she didn't do much working while she helped me move in and get situated. She either goes out and works today or we eat ramen until I can secure a job. I'm conflicted. I don't know how I'm going to respond when she walks out the door tonight. I assume I'll panic. I know I'll be noticeably concerned before she goes, and I know she'll be worried about me being concerned all night, but she's gonna do what she feels like she needs to do. I feel guilty that she'll be worried about me on top of other things. Today is gonna be a hard day. TLDR, moved in with my best friend / might as well be my girlfriend a month ago, found out on Friday she's been escorting for as long as I've known her. Hookers are on Reddit too, holy shit, who isn't on here? Dad? Why did you abandon me, man? I'm willing to forgive, but I gotta know why. Funny, my mom is currently divorcing my father for this. Throwaway for obvious reasons. When I was 19 I was alone in London, needed cash and didn't have much of a chance to get other jobs because of the recession. I had a friend that had been doing escort work, so I thought, what the hell. It was maybe my 4th job. I was sent as an out-call to a hotel on Park Lane by the agency. Apparently it's a well-known customer and he wants me to dress in a long coat and heels. I was also told that I need to be discreet. Whatever. I turn up, go up to the 8th floor, and knock on the door. He opens, shushes me and brings me in. Whatever I am thinking. He is into this. He gives me my gift and proceeds to immediately undress. He whips us and says he wants me to get under the covers and give him head. Okay. No problem. He covers me with the duvet and I am going hard. I'm pretty pro. I can feel he's getting close when I hear a door open. Oh shit. I think. I am panicking. He pushes my head down. And I heard an Arabic woman's voice. She's talking to him and shouting, he /s shouting back, still holding me down there. Whatever, I find it kind of funny, and am enjoying the situation. I was 19. 30 seconds later she whips the cover off and she's looking at me directly in the face. She's angry. He's clearly enjoying it and comes all over himself, laughing. She's screaming again. So needless to say I grab my clothes and get out of there ASAP. I can hear her screaming at him and him laughing as I'm running down the hall. 10/10 one of the funniest experiences, 10/10 would not do it again. Edit, since I have a lot of DMs, here's the agency I was working for, http://www. premiermodelsouk.com/. One time I found the hottest escort, so I pull up right next to her and press down L3, but she glitches and doesn't get into the car, frowning face. Client reporting in. I didn't get caught, but I did run into one of my escorts after hours, so to speak, when she came into my shop. I was out the back doing inventory when my mate who worked for me came in, laughing his head off, and told me I needed to come out and see this. As I'm heading towards the door, another one of my staff comes into the back, and while she's not laughing, she is almost bursting from trying desperately to hold it in. I walked out onto the floor, and in spite of what she was wearing, and I don't just mean clothes, I immediately recognized the lady in front of me as a former escort. That said, it was her choice of clothing and accessories that my team found so amusing, and which made them so reluctant to help her, knowing they probably couldn't keep a straight face while looking at her. She basically looked like a hippie, right down to the feathers and beads in her hair, and it didn't look like a costume, it looked like something she wore on a regular basis. It was unusual attire for our town, to be sure, but not hysterically amusing, at least I didn't think so. Mentally shaking my head at my team for being such bloody amateurs to lose their composure over someone's clothing, I was a total professional as I took care of the lady. I have no idea if she recognized me as well. If she did, she was also a complete professional and never gave any sign of it either. After helping her out, I returned to the back and my inventory, with my mate following me out, still crowing about what she had been wearing, etc. Now I was able to literally shake my head at him, and call him childish, which only cracked him up even more. I knew I could never tell him I knew her, in the biblical sense, or he would never let me live it down. I was once asked, do I have a girlfriend by an escort? My reply was, if I did I would not be here. Twice. Once the client emailed me himself asking for no further contact because his wife found out. I could tell from the stiff way it was written that she was standing over his shoulder. I replied saying of course, and also mentioned that we had never had sex. We hadn't, I was his dominatrix. The second time a client's wife called me. Thing was, they were separated. She begged me to stop seeing him, I already had, and kind of vented at me about her frustration that they were separating. I tried to give her some lame advice, but what do you say? I do remember that call lasted nearly an hour. It was painful. Not me, but was something I witnessed. There's this guy who also frequents a happy ending massage parlor in my area. I often see him, like 2 to 4 times a month he visits it. The lady that she always booked was not around on one particular night, so he did go for a twin massage for the first time based on the receptionist's story. 20 minutes later, I heard spanking and shouting on the next door. I thought that the guy is getting a fierce and rough sex. Turns out, it's his wife equipped with a baseball bat hitting the guy and those 2 ladies. Those 2 ladies that he booked got bruises and filed a complaint against the lady. I never saw that guy back again on that spa ever. I was also the one who found super weird emails from my pathological liar of an ex messaging W4M ads on Craigslist for dirty hookers. He tried to say he was trying to see if they were real or not. LOL, never really took that relationship as seriously after that. The good ol' I'm more of a therapist than an escort thread. I hadn't seen it this week. His wife works at a charity I was going to volunteer with. I knew because the charity FB has pics of the family who attend events. So opted out of that charity. Which slightly annoys me. I used to drive escorts around. One time I was in the car listening in like always, and the guy's wife shows up and starts yelling at the guy saying she's going to divorce him. I thought I was going to have to go in for backup, but the wife instead gave the girl the title to the guy's truck and all the money in his wallet. It was a little over $1,300, then told him he was going to lose more, then that it was an interesting night. After reading the comments here, I also have a question. Is anyone here not a dominatrix? After reading many of these stories, I think to myself, do these clients not understand the value of having a prepaid burner phone, hidden away, to keep their naughty on? I've had wives, GFS on my Snapchat tell me to fuck off, stay away from their husband, etc. Most memorable one was a snap from a follower sitting on his couch with the caption "Busted. Stay away, whore's his wife." Not me, but my roommate from a few years ago. She never actually fucked this guy but sent him her dirty panties for like $50 a pair, once a week, for a year. He was engaged and she found out around the third week. Obviously, the money was good and she didn't have any responsibility to their relationship, so she kept sending panties but denied all his offers to meet up and pay for sex. Anyway, his fiancée found out and took over his account and threatened to kill her. She didn't believe her and nothing came of it. My old roommate has now been married for 2 years, and no one has killed her yet. Obligatory, I'm not a hooker, I'm a bartender. But here's what I saw one time. I worked at pretty nice joint, with a James Beard nominated chef/owner. I had one guy that worked with me as a server who was a sorta dork, with a kinda dork wife who was also a companion. I can't remember the words she used to describe herself. Something French. Anyways, she would date guys for money. She would travel and visit guys and sometimes, but allegedly not always, bang them. Anyways, she started seeing a regular at my bar who traveled for work, and the husband knew, no big deal. They would become a couple, or whatever the fuck they call it. Trio. She had 2 men in her life. The shitstorm came when the client came into dinner at my restaurant, with his wife, kids, and in-laws. I think that they had come to visit him unannounced. Eventually the companion comes in, and sits at the bar. Her husband probably texted her that he was there, and what was going down. She had a couple drinks, and a breakdown sitting at my bar while her boyfriend had dinner with his wife in the restaurant next door. Eventually, the wife noticed the companion eyeballing them, kinda pissed, kinda crying, and figured out who she was. Dude ended up getting slapped, a drink thrown in his face. What an awkward dinner with the in-laws and kids. It went on forever, like another hour. I think he was begging the wife back and she cried, and the whole time, while he talked, he hugged and tried kissing her with wine all over his white and ivory bowling shirt. Casual escort occasionally with cute guys I meet in bars. One of their wives messaged me and asked if I had been seeing her husband. I initially lied. Then I mentioned that he stole my wallet and she didn't defend him at all, said she'd look for it for me. I went ahead and told her everything but wouldn't outright admit to the money exchange for my own protection. Kept saying things like it wasn't just for fun and she never got the hint. Eventually asked if money was exchanged and I said he paid for a private party. She still did not get the hint or was trying to get me to outright admit to it. I ready this so a superior officer and not significant other was not expecting the results. Wait, I've seen this porno. Is this the Daily Wank thread? fine by me, I'll be back. Former escort here. One of my favorite clients was unhappily married with 4 kids. He would always ask me if he should leave his wife and I would say yes. If you are gonna cheat you should end it. His wife, a former open star, owned a huge international fitness franchise. They also both loved coke. I saw him for 4 years before he suggested I come over and play with his wife in a coke-fueled threesome. It was incredible awkward as I was not attracted to her body. Afterwards, she said she knew he had seen me before and just wanted to see what he was cheating with. She liked me but I refused to do it again. I blocked his number but he kept messaging me through different social medias. Let me say this, I know he was doing their nanny, he had a mistress and also found out he was banging his mistress's little sister. I did not want this man, ever. However, every time he would leave she would blow up my phone, pretend she was someone else on Facebook, Instagram, or otherwise harass me. I felt bad for her. Not an escort girl but I was the client that got caught. I've always had this fetish I felt I couldn't tell my wife. So when my wife and daughter left for a hiking trip, I thought it would be a good time to call up an escort girl I had been talking to. She came in and I asked her to put a dog leash on me while I put on my daughter's panties. We had just gotten started when my wife and daughter came home early and caught me red-panted. It went about as you'd expect. If I would've known it was this kinda party, I would've stuck my dick in the mashed potatoes. Escort girls? Come on. Escort dudes have way better stories. Not an escort or a client but I had a pretty damn good hot dog for dinner. Yes. I was there. We had already discussed my donation. He claimed he had to go to the ATM. I was walking out because I do not care for time wasters. This woman pulls up in the driveway and asks who I am. I just keep walking to my car and get in and drive away. I hear him say I am just a friend. I do not care for drama. It is not my thing. For faithful clients, I will just play dumb also if their so contacts me. How do you even get escorts? Asking for my science project on prostitution. There are more escorts frequenting Reddit than I thought. I heard this from my friend. His friend had a fantasy of Nuru massage for a long time and he kept on asking his wife and she kept turning him down. He paid a pro and arranged it in his home. His wife's flight got cancelled and she returned it to find her husband naked with another woman. But they didn't separated, they are living together. Hope she understood his needs. I read this as esports girls and was so confused. Not an escort, not a client, and not a girl, but I helped someone bust their so when I was a teenager. Friend of mine and I had been in this pizza place where I grew up. We walked out and there was this older lady on the sidewalk pacing back and forth. She asked me and my friend if she could pay us $20 to drive by a car in the parking lot, read the license plate, and see if we could tell what was going on in the car. Being naive, we didn't think much of it, so we drove by the car and the plates said something to the effect of Goodwood and the windows were tinted out very dark. Again, being naive, I didn't think anything of this but told it to the lady. Apparently, though her husband had been cheating on her with a male escort and followed him one night to the parking lot. She saw him get in the car with this student he had been in there a while, apparently. She was really upset, talking about how they had several kids, was gonna have to get a divorce, etc. She used some colorful language to describe how she felt. I tried to get her to not give us the money but she nearly stuffed it down my shirt and insisted. Probably the dirtiest I've ever felt taking money. I still get a little sad about it and often wonder what came of it. For anyone curious, there are multiple apps you can use on your smartphone to order escorts. It's like DoorDash. Found a website, https://www.eki.net/. Not what Hop asked but I found out my fiancé hired an escort while he was out of town one time. I thought we were madly in love, and that our sex life was amazing. It utterly destroyed me as a person. I can't cope. I can't understand. Even reading this question hurts my brain. Thanks for visiting Reddit Town Hall. Have a great day.